because I want to bring in somebody who has been quite direct about how he feels about the situation. And that, of course, is Congressman Lloyd Doggett. Congressman, thank you so much for being on with us.
Good to join you this afternoon.
So you write that that you did not come to this decision lightly. Can you explain why you ultimately did decide to speak out publicly at this moment today?
You know, when my wife and I watched the debate last Thursday, we were so hoping for the momentum to overcome the lag that we've had in the last year. Instead, we were disappointed to see lies by Trump not refuted effectively and an effective defense of the successes of the Biden administration. I was so moved by that evening that the next morning I was out to talk on the floor of Congress with our leadership and with as many of my colleagues as I could find to express the view that it was time for a replacement and for President Biden to step aside. Coming home to Texas this weekend, I would say that the input from my constituents has been 10-1 in favor of replacing President Biden on the ticket. And then with the Supreme Court decision on Monday, we know that if a criminal and his gang take over the White House, there will be no checks and balances from the courts, and a real danger that we could get a Republican Congress where he's basically empowered to do whatever he wants in the way of recrimination and revenge against his opponents and all the horrible policies that he would institute at home and abroad.
You are, at least at the moment now, Congressman, as you well know, out on, to a degree, a limb by yourself, the only Democratic lawmaker who has now put your name behind this call for President Biden to step aside. Have you heard from any other colleagues who feel the same way?
Yes, I have, and I understood it was a limb when I crawled out on it. I've been in Congress. You can tell I'm not the most youthful member there, and I'm not the most endangered member, and I thought it was time for me to speak up, not for any self-gain, but because I think the risk to our country is so great, and we need to have the strongest candidate possible in order to assure that the values that we hold for our democracy are not traded for an authoritarian strongman bent on revenge against his opponents.
Do you expect any of the other colleagues that you've heard from to follow your lead?
I'm hopeful that some of them will. Maybe more importantly is that they express their views privately to the White House. It's only natural, as you were describing, that the staff and the family gathers, though I would hope that he has more advice than from Hunter Biden, but that they gather in support of him. Stand by your man. But we need the reality of the discontent that's out there among those of us who fear a Republican House and Senate and who fear for the future of our country. And just to look at the cold, hard numbers from the polls that they went down instead of going up.
You mentioned the White House here. Has anybody from the White House or from the Biden campaign reached out to you today since you released that statement?
No, I haven't heard from them. I did call yesterday afternoon, courtesy call to let them know of my concern and that I wanted to speak directly to the president about the need for him to step aside. Though I recognize that's as challenging a decision for him as was true in other circumstances for President Lyndon B. Johnson, whose district I have the heart of now to represent.
So to be clear then, Congressman, you did not speak directly to the president?
I have not.
Is there anything that you could hear from him or see from him that would get you to change your mind?
Well, there's plenty I could see from him, and you referred to some of it just a few minutes ago. You would think after the kind of performance that we saw there, he would be out engaging not with a teleprompter, but with one reporter after another to answer the hard questions that are out there. I think that's more important to me than a cognitive test or anything else, is to demonstrate that last Thursday was an aberration and that he's ready to actively engage and answer all the hard questions again and again. That's the kind of engagement we need to have if he chooses to stay in the race. I hope that he will put country first. I know Trump would never do that, but that he will put country first and decide to step aside, give us a fair, open, democratic with a small d convention and a lead up to that convention. I think there are a number of candidates that could come in and provide us a stronger message in trying to prevent a Trump authoritarian takeover.
Well, to that point, Congressman, you did not say in your statement who you think the nominee should be, if not President Biden. So who are the names? Who do you want to see lead the ticket? Is it Kamala Harris? Is it somebody else?
And I'm not an advocate for any other candidate, and I would not know tonight who I would prefer of the possibilities. What I do see is a strong bench though perhaps not as well known nationally. We've got several governors. We've got several members of the United States Senate, undoubtedly the vice president, maybe some other members of the cabinet. Let's let them come out in the weeks that remain and present their program and show how they would respond on the overriding issue of winning in November.
But do you have any concern, sir, that the process that you're describing, the process of replacing the president on the ticket, could be messier or more difficult or more damaging than leaving President Biden on the ticket in the first place?
Well, we're Democrats. It will be messy. It will be chaotic. It's the nature of the democratic process rather than having a handful of people make all the decisions, or in the case of the Republicans, Trump by himself. That process, while it's messy, if it's done in a fair and open way, may do a great deal to restore confidence in the democratic process. The many people that were referred to as double haters because they didn't like either candidate would have a new choice, perhaps a more youthful choice, to respond to their concerns. And let me say, while there's concern, and I certainly have it as a Democrat, for how this process proceeds, there's some problems for the Republicans also. They built their whole campaign not about what they could really do for America, but their hate of Joe Biden and all the many good things that he has accomplished. Now they have to completely retool also if we have a new candidate.
As you look around the House of Representatives, how much did those down-ballot races play into your thinking to come out publicly now and ask President Biden, as you say respectfully, to step aside? How do you think about that?
Well, the most important thing was the presidency, because I think we saw a little bit in the last 4 years of Trump and now what he plans for the next 4 years, that you cannot Trump-proof our government, no matter what control there is in the other houses. But yes, I'm very concerned that the courts provide no check on Trump and that there's a real risk of a Republican Congress if we can't unite and have a stronger effort. I expect the House to become Democratic, but it could be endangered if our candidate for the presidency looks weak.
Congressman, before I let you go, I just would love for you. You've been in politics for a minute here. This is an extraordinary moment in American politics. Can you just reflect on your thinking in this moment here? Based on everything you've said, it is clear that you come to the table here with a heavy heart.
I do. We have a very good man who served and devoted his life to public service in Joe Biden. And now we must call on him to give the ultimate sacrifice of saying that he will step aside, because that's the best way to save our country, our democracy, from autocracy. Coming here at July the 4th, it's particularly important that he speak up and make that decision. And I hope that more of my colleagues from around the country and people that are watching your show from around the country are contacting their member and expressing their feelings, not after the decision's made, but right now. Express their views and let their members of Congress who are out in their districts know exactly how they feel one way or the other, whether they agree or disagree with me.
Congressman Lloyd Doggett, we are thankful to you for making time for this show tonight. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.